Okay, so it's been 45 minutes since we mixed our dough, and now it's time to do our first stretch. Okay, so there's gonna be 4 stretch and folds, and they happen about 30 to 45 minutes apart. So this has been resting for 45 minutes, and time can vary. You know, if you go through each stretch and fold and you feel like your dough it's just not relaxed yet, it's not ready to be stretched, you can adjust to longer if it's fighting with you, shorter if it's cooperating. But this first one's gonna be a little different because we need to get our salt in. So we held back our salt, and now it's time to put it in the dough. And here we go. I already did this. Here's the B-roll. We're doing this kind of out of timeline order, even though it's all happening today. Anyway, so the salt. So uncover your bowl. Take our pre-measured salt, our 16 grams of salt for our 800 batch of dough, 800 gram batch, and we're just going to sprinkle it, pretty evenly over the surface. And I'm right-handed. I'm going to get my right hand just a little bit of wet, a little lubricated. Shake off whatever excess you have, and we're going to pinch and stretch the dough to incorporate the salt. And this is kind of different than what the second, third, and fourth stretch and folds will be, because we're trying to work the salt in here. And because we're using pink Himalayan salt, we have color, which can help give us some visual cues as to is the salt absorbed. And in the beginning here, the dough's supple. It's like, whoa, this thing got elastic in the last 45 minutes. And then as the salt, pinch it, pull it, fold it over itself. You can't do this wrong. Like, there is no doing this wrong unless you just have dough all over the palm of your hands. So keep it in your fingertips. We're really just pinching, stretching, folding. As you start incorporating the salt, it'll feel like the dough kind of tightens up, and it'll go from being elastic to kind of tight, and eventually to, oh, it's wet and sticky again. And salt is hygroscopic, which means it draws out moisture. So as the salt gets incorporated into the dough, it's going to draw moisture from the dough, and that moisture is actually going to help the salt to dissolve. And we're not looking for 100% of the salt to dissolve. We're looking for maybe 95% of it to get in there. So be aware of how it feels to your fingertips, the texture, the grittiness. Use those visual cues of the pink salt. If you're using it, like, oh, there's a pocket of pink over there. Let me break that up and stretch it and pinch it and fold it into the dough. And if you are using pink Himalayan salt, I feel like even once it is 90% like into the 95% like in the dough and the grittiness is mostly gone, you're gonna see like hints of that pink color. Don't worry about it. Don't go crazy here. Get to the point where it goes from elastic to kind of fighting with you to sticky. And once it gets to sticky, there really shouldn't be any pockets of salt left, but work your way around, really explore the dough. And once we've got, we've pinched it, we've pulled it, we've stretched it, the salt is 95% gone, we're done. That's it. That is all we're doing. So we're gonna leave it in the bowl. We're gonna cover it with our silicone lid. We're gonna put it onto our folded kitchen towel to protect it from the cold granite surface. And we're gonna come back in 30 to 45 minutes. We're gonna do our second stretch and fold, and it's gonna be a completely different kind of technique, and your dough is gonna have a very different feel. So I'll see you in 30 to 45 minutes. Okay, so let's take a quick look. What does the dough look like in the bowl after having been manipulated with salt 40 minutes ago? It looks like this. And you're just gonna get like your hand wet with cool water, and you're gonna release the dough from the bowl. And when I say wet, I mean like just a light coating. We're not looking to get your hands soaking wet. If you get your hands too wet, the dough's not gonna stick to itself because it's gonna be too slippery. If your hands aren't wet enough, the dough's really gonna stick to you. So we just wanna have a light coating. And as we go to release it, like if the dough steals too much of the moisture off our hands, just get it wet again. But what are we doing here? The whole purpose of what we're doing is we're trying to create tension in the dough to help create those gluten bonds that create the elasticity in the dough that allow it to expand. So as it ferments, it will expand. It will produce gases, and if there's good gluten development and the dough is elastic, it will have the suppleness and elasticity to grow and double in volume. And then when we bake it, it'll expand and spring in the oven. So here we go. Like that much. And then I'm just gonna pull it out. Here it is. And this is kind of a quick process. So you can see I've got a side that's hanging down. I'm gonna take this side and I'm gonna tuck it into the middle. I'm gonna let the other one kind of fold over. And then I'm gonna make a 90-degree turn. Same kind of thing, just kind of pulling these left and right sides underneath. And then I'm gonna turn it again. I'm gonna tuck it under and tuck it under. Turn it again, tuck it under, tuck it under. And I'm looking to kind of have the surface become smooth. And you can see all these seams I'm gathering underneath. I'm just stretching it underneath and sticking it into itself, kind of anchoring it underneath. And how many times did I go? I don't know, I've done a few. And I'm just going until you can really feel the dough like start to fight against you. And if you go too far, you will start like tearing the dough. And let's see, do I want to create a tear just so you can see what I mean? And I can feel it like it's starting to tell me no, starting to tighten up. And that's cool, that's what I'm looking for. Like this would be about it. It's formed like a really nice tight ball, and it's good to go back into the bowl. And I've got like a little teeny tiny baby tear right there. If you go too far, you eventually will inside out the dough. And maybe I've got some more dough over here. Maybe I'll do an example of what not to do. But that's it, how are my hands doing? There's no dough sticking to my hands. This is a pretty easy process. It's not like sticky when we started with this dough initially, just the mixing phase. So that's it, it's going back in the bowl. Cover it with our lid. It's gonna stay on a towel here to protect it from the cold granite, and we'll come back to it in 30 to 45 minutes. If you use a lower hydration dough, it might need more time to relax, so you might need those 45 minutes for it to be ready to be stretched again. If you're using a wetter dough, you might need more stretch and folds to build like the strength of the gluten. So here is a batch of dough with my regular starter, and there's like a little stickiness from the dough. I'll see if I can get away with it here. But we're gonna take this one too far anyway, so it doesn't matter. So we'll take it to the inside outing point. And you wanna think of keeping your hands together, kind of like a paddle. You don't wanna like open your hands up and then you've got like less support and the dough is falling more through your fingers. All right, let's see. I'm just gonna keep working my way around. Okay, so there's my first tear in the dough right there. And there's a big tear. So now the dough is gonna try and go inside out, because basically you're pushing dough into the middle underneath it. And when it gets inside out, so now it's all ripping apart. I've gone beyond what the dough will tolerate. And now it's gonna feel sticky because we're taking all the moisture dough from the inside and bringing it, up through the middle here. And I've gone way too far now. It's really ripping apart. And this will be fine later, like on my next stretch. But just a visual of going too far. Let's see, you gonna go inside out yet? It's trying to. And essentially, it is going inside out. Like the dough from the middle has now come to the surface. So you see, it's not like it goes inside out right away, but there it is. Now it's really opening up. It's getting really sticky. This is an over manipulated like stretch and fold right here. Like that's just too much. You don't need to do that much. And that made my hands way stickier. So it's just a quick thing. It's really like maybe 8 turns and we're just creating tension. We want the surface to be smooth, and we'll come back to this in 30 to 45 minutes and we'll get our third stretch and fold. Same process. Okay, this is our third stretch and fold, and our dough should feel really different this time. So this is what it looks like in the bowl. Nice, smooth, round ball of dough. And here we go. Number 3. Okay, so wet hands, right? So not too wet, not too dry. Too wet and the dough will not stick to itself. Too dry and the dough sticking to you. So I'm just gonna go around, I'm gonna release it. This is kind of a quick process. So let's see, is there anything I want to say before I pull it out? Not really, okay. I'm sure I will. So here it is. It's, elastic, it's yielding to gravity, and we're just gonna put some tension back into it and put it back in the bowl. So here's my left side. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna put it in the middle. Right side's gonna go in the middle. Here's our 90-degree turn, same thing, left side to the middle, right side to the middle. And I might just work around some more of these corners. Nice big air bubble right there. It's okay to pop it. We're not trying to, preserve air at this point. And we're just trying to create tension. You want the dough to feel like it's pulling on itself. So essentially it's, kind of developing gluten all by itself in the bowl. And that's it. That's like all I need. It smells really nice. Be aware of feel, temperature to the touch, and, of course, how it smells. And, you take the lid off and it smells like, oh, it smells like dough. Dough smells good. So little tiny opening right there. Dough's telling me, stop, I'm good. So back in the bowl, cover it with the lid, and we're gonna come back in 30 to 45 minutes, something in that neighborhood. If life gets away with you and it turns into an hour, you're fine. If you try and do this in 20 minutes, it might not be ready. It might not be relaxed enough to stretch. So 30 to 45 minutes is a good guideline. No like real hard fast rule. If you do end up like having an hour gap, like it's a 60-minute window before you stretch and fold, no worries, just continue on, get back on track. That's it. So I'll see you one more time. We're gonna do one more stretch and fold before we just leave this to bulk ferment, which is a process of doubling in volume. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. What about the other guy? The one that we took too far. I'll stretch it because I need to. I might as well do it on camera. So I'm pull him out, and he's not as smooth and pretty as the other one because we took him too far, but we're gonna make him smooth and pretty right now. So some tucks, some folds, anchor it to itself underneath, and that's it. Look at that. Now it's a nice, pretty, smooth, tight ball of dough that's pulling on itself, and I'll stretch this guy in, another 30 to 45 minutes. He's for a different dough project, bread project. Okay, it's been 45 minutes later because that's how this is fitting in my life today. 30 to 45 minutes, it's all good. Let's take a look in the bowl. You can see the dough, it's actually expanded a little bit. It's bigger than it was last we saw it. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna stretch and fold it. This will be our last time, and then we're just gonna leave it alone. So damp, wet, lubricated hands. And I'm just gonna go around, release this from the bowl. And I'm not worried about kind of abusing it a little bit and letting it stretch. And you can see how elastic that this has really become. And I wanna make sure that, don't be afraid to manipulate and feel your dough. It's got a really nice feel to it. Smells good. Okay, I tore it. Who cares? It's not a big deal. Don't be afraid to handle your dough at this point. It's got a different feel. It's real pillowy. It's real soft. The temperature's changed a little bit. Feels a little bit warmer. But I'm just going around, same thing, tucking some ends under, creating some tension again. I just popped a pretty big air pocket right there. Don't worry about that yet. It's cool to see that there's that activity in the dough and it's producing air, but don't feel afraid to oh, I have to be delicate and gentle. I want to preserve all this volume. It's going to grow quite a bit in this next phase of development, so don't worry about taking air out of it. So that's about it. It feels like it's pulling on itself. Feels like it's kind of fighting me on trying to tuck more of the dough underneath itself. It's got it's not sticky. It's got a nice feel to it. And it's gonna go back in the bowl. And what happens now? It's kind of on autopilot. So in the first phase of stretching, folding, mixing was like maybe 2.5 hour time commitment where you're gonna be around. You're gonna mix it, 30, 45 minutes later, we're gonna get our salt, and then, 3 more 30 to 45 minute, intervals. But from here, it's gonna hang out, and eventually it's gonna look like this. This is not this dough. This is a different dough, but this dough is gonna end up looking like that. We're gonna look for it to pretty much fill the whole entire bowl. And, here is an image of this dough right now in this bowl as it is, just so we have a comparison to later, and we're looking for it to really double in volume. And that's all bulk fermentation is. We're looking for the dough to double in volume. And then we will shape it. So when I see you next, this thing will probably be sticking to the lid or just below the lid, and then we'll shape it. This other guy, yeah, why not? Since we're here and it's here before this ends up part of another project, same thing. Take it out, tuck it under, turn it, tuck it under, work my way around, create some tension. That's it. That's all it needs. And then back in the bowl. Love these silicone lids. Link in the description. Beats plastic wrap. They're reusable. Okay, that's it. I'll see you when we're shaping.